Just like Zach Wilson, we are back. It is 10 o'clock. It's Wednesday night, and we are live. And welcome everybody to New York Sports WickerMedia. I'm Watch UK99. I am standing here live from the studio apartment in Newport News, Virginia. Welcome to Wednesday Night Live. Hope you can see we redecorated the studio for Christmas. Got the Jets stocking, and believe me, there is nothing in that thing but a big hunk of coal. Oh my goodness. I've even got my old school Play Like a Jets sweatshirt on. Obviously, this was made a long stinking time ago. Long time ago. But then again, if it applies to the defense, then I guess it's somewhat of a point of pride. But anyway, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. We're going to get into some Jets football a little bit later. Got some trivia planned as well. I'm going to spend a good amount of time on baseball tonight because there really is a lot going on with baseball. And to be honest, I kind of want to put off talking about the Jets as long as I can. But before we get into all of that, let's get started tonight with a little bit of 3 and out. That's right. We got the new 3 and out graphic right there. Okay, first thing that I want to talk about is basketball, the Knicks versus the Bucks in the quarterfinal of that just ridiculous NBA play-in tournament, that mid-season tournament that results in nothing but $500,000 to every player, like any of us care. But they went to Milwaukee, and it was not a pretty game. They lost 146 to 122. There were almost 150 points combined in this game, and that was just in the first half. But the second half was just ridiculous. I mean, the Bucks shot 60% from three-point range, 60% overall. I mean, they made 23 of 38 three-point shots. Just not good enough defense by the Knicks. You know, they did have some good performances on offense. Julius Randle with 41 points on 14 for 19 shooting. Jalen Brunson, 24 points. RJ Barrett, 23. But this just reinforces what I think a lot of Knicks fans already knew. This team is good. This team is fun. This team is talented, but they are not a championship level team. There's no way around it. So far this year, they are 0-4 against Boston and Milwaukee, widely considered the two best teams in the Eastern Conference. Oh, and by the way, now they have to play Boston on Friday, because both Boston and the Knicks lost in the quarterfinals of the play-in tournament. So because of this tournament now, the Knicks, who are 12-8, they get to face the Celtics and the Bucks 5 times each. Yuck. So that's basically what the Knicks got out of this tournament. Additional games with Boston and Milwaukee, about the last things that they really needed. All right, so on to hockey. I got to say, Tuesday night, not a very good night for the local teams. The Devils did beat the Canucks, but the Rangers, I thought, had maybe their worst game of the season in Ottawa, a team that I despise to this day. It was a 6-2 loss. The defense, they allowed odd man rushes all night long. You know, they allowed a lot of goals against San Jose. They allowed a lot of goals against Ottawa. Of course, ex-Ranger Vladimir Tarasenko, he scored twice. You had to know that was going to happen. It's just ex-Rangers are just unbelievable at scoring against their old team. It was Anthony Duclair the night before with San Jose. You know, he's saying plays going on. It's hysterical. The Rangers have the puck deep in the San Jose zone, right? And the pass goes a little bit errant. Anthony Duclair is just kind of hanging out there behind the blue line, not involved in the defense at all. I mean, he's just hanging right out all over the place. Takes the puck, goes down for a breakaway. That is his whole game. Man, he's a talented scorer, but it is no wonder why Anthony Duclair can't stick with one hockey team for more than seemingly a year and a half to 2 years. Now, the loss against Ottawa, it was ugly. Ottawa played harder, executed better. And you know what? Maybe it's best the Rangers have a couple of days off here. You know, the Rangers are not going to be back in action until Saturday and Sunday. They got a back-to-back in Washington. I'm going to be there. I will be there live at the formerly Verizon Center, now Capital One Arena. So I'll be there for Rangers Capitals. Sunday, they will have a game at home against the LA Kings. And as for the New York Islanders, whoa. You know what? We've talked a lot about the Islanders, how much they have struggled in the third period. And Tuesday night may have been their worst loss of the season as well. You know, they've had a good road trip, 2 impressive wins, but then you get Tuesday where the Islanders fell on their collective ass at home against the San Jose Sharks, widely considered to be the worst team in the NHL. They lose 5-4 as William Eklund scored with 5 seconds to go in overtime. And this was after the Islanders collapsed over the last 12 minutes. Early in the third period, Islanders up 4-1. Kevin LeBlanc of the Sharks scores with 11 minutes to go. Thomas Hurdle scores on a rebound, 3:11 left. It's now 4-3. And then with 1:30 to go, it's Thomas Hurdle again at the back post to bury a feed from William Eklund. And then in overtime, it got even more frustrating for the blue and orange. Noah Dobson and Bo Horvat both ring shots off the post, and Eklund scores the game winner with a mere 5 seconds on the clock. You know, the Islanders, they have a decent record. They've got some talent. You know, they have an excellent goalie. But my goodness, the way they play these third periods, they have blown so many third period leads. And to me, that just comes down to the coaching. More than anything, this has been a problem for the first 25, 30 games, and it's up to Leighton Lambert to fix it. It really, really is. All right, we'll get into the baseball in a moment, but I want to say hello to a few people who have stopped by in the chat. We've got the great Jets Ness here. Good to see you. Haig G, man, the show wouldn't be the same without you. I'm glad you're here. We've got Wild Wave. He's here early. Good to see you, my friend. Surf's up. And the great Harlan Abraham is here as well. Good to see you guys here. Yep, I'll be watching the chat as we go through the night. You have thoughts, you have questions, throw them my way. Of course, super chats, super thanks are available. We'll get to the trivia a little bit later on tonight. And, you know, I'll be checking the likes. If we get enough likes, I don't know, you hit that thumbs up button enough times, maybe say, I don't know, 20 likes, we'll spin the wheel. Maybe we'll do another little, we'll do a list just like we did last week. Went over super well. So maybe we'll do that again. But that one, let's see some likes down there. All right, let's talk a little bit of baseball. The winter meetings are about to wrap up in Nashville, Tennessee at the Opryland Hotel. Great place to go and hang out for a while because once you're inside, it's pretty hard to figure your way out of the hotel. It is vast and it is confusing. It is a maze inside the Opryland Hotel. But today we have the Rule 5 draft. And, you know, these are basically players not on the 40-man roster who have been with the team or the organization a certain amount of time. And another team has the option to claim that player, but they have to keep the player on their roster the whole season, Major League roster the whole season, or the previous team could take them back for just $50,000. So the Mets claimed Justin Slayton, a right-handed reliever from the Texas Rangers, 26 years old, and when I was scouting him, it looked pretty interesting. Last year, he struck out 13 batters per 9 innings, not too bad. Pitched to a 2.87 ERA in AA and AAA. Baseball America, this got me excited, identified him as the top available player in the Rule 5 draft of any team, of any position. And I thought, wow, the Mets have this guy. Maybe he can be a piece in that bullpen because God knows the Mets need it. 1 hour later, I get the news the Mets have now traded Justin Slayton to the Red Sox for cash and Ryan Ammons. This is Boston's 10th round pick out of Clemson in 2023. Missed the second half of last year with a forearm strain, has yet to pitch in the majors. So from what I see with Ammons, he's got a good fastball slider combination, left-handed pitcher. Fastball gets to about the low 90s, but he does have the ability to have some good swing and miss stuff. Hard to know if he's going to be a starter or a reliever. Mets did lose a couple of minor league players as well in the minor league phase, but we'll go into that. As far as the Yankees go, the Texas Rangers selected one of their relievers, Carson Coleman. Coleman was a 33rd round pick of the Tampa Bay Rays back in 2019, signed with the Yankees in 2020 as a free agent. So he throws a pretty hard fastball as his primary pitch. He did miss the 2023 season due to elbow surgery, so I don't think that's really a huge loss for the Yankees. He may not even pitch for most of this season. But some major league news about some things that may be happening soon. So Shohei Ohtani, per John Morosi of MLB.com, I think that's a pretty reliable source. He's expected to decide on his future team by this coming Sunday. So we're waiting for that first big domino to fall in baseball free agency. Baseball is really the only sport where the free agency period it's like a drop of water. It's like a crock pot. Every other sport, football, hockey, basketball, they're like Instapots. It's just boom, just like that fast. But yeah, with baseball, it takes a long time. Now, as far as where's Ohtani going to go, I have always felt the San Francisco Giants make the most sense. You have an owner willing to spend. Remember, they went very hard after Aaron Judge last season. The lineup and rotation both need a jolt, which Ohtani can definitely provide. If it's not the Giants, though, I think my next 4 teams in order I would expect to have a legitimate chance are the Dodgers, the Blue Jays, the Angels keeping him, and then the Cubs. I don't think there's any way he comes to the East Coast. I'm not worried about the Atlanta rumors, which were weeks ago. It's basically been made clear he doesn't want to play in New York or in the Northeast, so I don't think that's going to happen. I really would be surprised if Ohtani is not playing in California next season. So that's my thoughts as far as that goes. There have been some rumors about the Phillies signing Jock Peterson as a DH. The Cubs may be getting Rhys Hoskins. They really need a bat. Eduardo Rodriguez, starting pitcher who I've had some interest in for the Mets. He is, according to John Heyman, down to 2 teams, and there could be a decision by Thursday. Now, remember with Rodriguez, he opted out of the remaining 3 years and $49 million on his contract for the remainder of that deal. Okay, so he's not taking a deal for any less than $349. I would expect realistically maybe 4 for 50 or 4 for 55. So the question is, who's it going to be? I've heard the one team I've seen to hear a rumor about is Arizona. Their GM used to be in Boston with Rodriguez, but as of right now, Heyman has not mentioned what teams it might be. But I would think this. There's about 6 or 7 teams in on Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and I think the teams that are in on Yamamoto, they are focusing on him primarily. I expect Rodriguez to go to one of maybe the mid-tier, like the Rangers, like the Diamondbacks. That kind of a team, I think, would make sense. Okay, so that's kind of my thoughts as far as that goes. Okay, so what we're going to do, I want to spend a minute here on the Yankees. I feel like we really need to do that. Yeah, we're going to get into the football in a little bit. But with this Juan Soto trade, I feel like this really deserves a good amount of time here. So the Yankees are making moves. They make a trade for Alex Verdugo from the Red Sox for 3 pitchers: Richard Fitz, Greg Weissert, Nicholas Judas. Verdugo will be a free agent after 2024. Pretty good outfielder. Will be a starter. He's a free agent after this season. Okay. Richard Fitz appears to be the biggest prospect in the deal, ranked 12th in the Yankees system, 23 years old. Last year in Double-A, he struck out 163 batters, walked just 43, allowed 22 home runs in 152 innings. Could be a back of the rotation piece. Yeah, Harlan, I don't think Ohtani is really going to go on the East. I just don't think that's what he wants to do. Every report I've seen is that Ohtani is not looking at New York. And to me, if you're not looking at New York, you're likely not looking at Philadelphia or Boston either. So I just don't think that's going to happen. Really, really don't. But the big thing right now is the Juan Soto trade. Now, there have been talks that's been finalized. It has not been done yet. At the very least, there are still medical reports to do, physicals to get done. The last that we've heard, the Padres were reviewing medicals because they're acquiring a lot of pitchers from the Bronx Bombers. But the trade, as it's looking, is Juan Soto and Trent Grisham and his $5 million salary. He's thrown in that deal really for salary relief more than anything. So they would be going to San Diego in exchange for Michael King and Johnny Brito, pitchers on the major league roster, plus pitching prospects Drew Thorpe and Randy Vasquez, who are the 5th and 13th ranked Yankees prospects, plus Kyle Higashioka, the catcher, and that would be the trade, basically a 2-for-5 trade. And again, it needs to be pointed out, this would be a rental. Now, the thing with Soto, there's 2 things that you really have to like. He plays. Number one, he played 151 games in 2021, 153 in 2022. In 2023, he played a full season. Played all 162, batted 275, a 778 OPS, which is very good. 35 home runs, 109 RBIs, 12 stolen bases. He walked 132 times. That's the most in baseball. He also struck out 129 times. And for his career, his batting average is 284 with 160 home runs, 483 RBIs, and a 946 OPS. So what we're seeing is he's kind of changing into more of a power hitter as opposed to a contact hitter. So you have to wonder about that. His average was still pretty good last year, but before that, it was around 240 in 2022. That you have to be worried about. But the Yankees have needed a lefty slugger for a long time. Much as I like Anthony Rizzo, he had a very disappointing season. Concussions had a lot to do with that. But Yankee fans, I know Wild Wave's a Yankee fan. I'm just letting you know. When he goes up there looking for a walk, when he's going up there approaching an at-bat like he's Brandon Nimmo or DJ LeMahieu, don't say you weren't warned, okay? But he makes $33 million this year. Then he's going to be a free agent. I really don't expect him to sign before next offseason. I think he will test the market. Certainly a chance that he could come back to the Yankees. But I think as a 25, 26-year-old free agent, he really owes it to himself to test the market. He really, really does. And I think the Mets would be in hot pursuit if he could get to that point. Okay, guys. Well, I think that's enough baseball for right now. Let's get into the football. Let's get into some New York Jets. Dear God, have mercy. Oh my gosh. Well, let's go into the stats. We'll get into the stats. We'll get into the snap counts. We'll talk a little bit about Houston. I'm going to talk about Tankathon quite a bit. We're going to talk about the other teams kind of in the mix with the Jets. We're going to look at their schedules for the rest of the season. We're going to even go through a rooting guide on who to root for Thursday through Monday. That's right. We got it all planned out. But if we look at the DVOA, let's make this a little bit bigger. There we go. All right. So the Jets DVOA numbers, guys, it ain't pretty, and you knew it wouldn't be pretty. The Jets offense has now dropped 2 spots from 30th to 32nd. Apparently now the Jets have a worse offense than Carolina or the Giants, who they were ahead of for a while. The defense actually went up to 3rd, up 2 spots. The only defenses ranked higher are Baltimore and Cleveland. The one thing I don't understand, and guys in the chat, maybe you can let me know your feelings on this. The special teams in like 3 weeks has dropped from 1 to 11. Now, I know they gave up was a return touchdown against the Chargers. I remember that. But what did they do really in the last game against Atlanta that warranted a 4-place drop from 7 to 11? I thought Morstead punted very well. Zerline made his kicks. It's not like Atlanta had any special teams touchdowns. So, I did not understand that drop. Just did not get it. But then if we look overall, the Jets are down to 28th. They dropped 5 spots this week. The only teams ranked lower than them in order are the Washington Commandskins, Arizona, Carolina, and the New York Football Giants. So that DVOA, it is getting worse by the week. But the strange thing is, I felt the Jets didn't really necessarily play their worst game. It was just more of the same. And it's like maybe the people who do these stats finally figured it out. Maybe it was Tim Boyle starting. I don't know. I mean, who knows what it was. But with some news and notes with the Jets, as we all know, Robert Saleh confirmed today Zach Wilson will be back starting at quarterback. It is about his 11th comeback. He's had more comebacks than Terry Funk in the world of pro wrestling. It is just crazy. Personally, I would have had him as the backup. I would have given Trevor Siemian a chance to start. I would have made Zach the primary backup. And Tim Boyle, thankfully, is out of the picture. I would mind seeing Brett Rippon a little bit later in the season, but not after signing him with 4 days' notice. So, I wouldn't have done that with Brett Rippon. But Zach will be in, and you know what? I hope he goes out and I hope he plays pissed off. I really do. I think this is a situation where you don't care about mistake-free. You don't care about not turning the football over. We all know Zach Wilson is not going to be on the New York Jets next season. I am somewhat confident in saying that. So at this point, why not go all out? Why not try a bunch of bombs down the field? Why not try like a run and shoot sort of situation? Why not do that? Jets Mess, where is your super chat? Let me I'm going to check this through my mobile because on this view it looks a little bit different. Let's see. Let's see here. You know what? I had it before, but I don't know where it went. YouTube might be messing with me, guys. I don't know. I hope, man. I certainly hope not. But that would not be good. Super chat, Wave super chats in the bottom right. Okay, yeah, I have a little bit of a different view as like the as the moderator here, but yeah, like I could do like a little bit of scrolling, but yeah, it looks a little bit different on here than it might in other spots. But yeah, videos, yeah, lower right. I think that sounds about right. Okay, thanks, guys. I definitely appreciate that. Quick swig of water. Okay. Yeah, because here's one of the things I found out with super chats. I'm going to take you behind the curtains a little bit. You can so the channel got monetized. I think once I hit like 500, I believe, a little bit earlier than expected. But they don't actually start paying you until you get X amount of total money, which I'm not quite at that place yet. So that's why I got to get these memberships figured out what we're going to do. But yeah, try to add a little bit on here and just trying to add little things at a time rather than roll everything out at one time. Doing the wheel I thought would be fun too. So Jets Mess with a question. First and foremost, thank you for the $5. I definitely appreciate it. Who do you think made the call for Zach? At this point, I'm thinking maybe it's a collaboration. I think it should be the head coach. I think the head coach should be the only person to make that decision. I don't see Joe Douglas as being a meddler. I don't see him being that type of guy. I do believe that Salah has wanted to play Zach all along, but possibly there was pressure from other players, maybe from other coaches, to sit Zach down and see what else there was. But my personal opinion, and we may never know, I think Robert Salah did want to play Zach Wilson because he knew that was the most talented quarterback on his roster. I mean, Zach is very mentally frustrating. You have very different types of frustration with these quarterbacks. Tim Boyle, his ceiling is about on the level of the floor that my feet are on right now. Okay, guys, wherever you are, look down at the floor, put your hand there, and where your palm is, Tim Boyle's head comes up to that palm. Okay, that is his ceiling as a quarterback. Zach Wilson's got a high ceiling, but he is just so frustrating because he just doesn't put it all together in here, in between the ears. I never thought, I will say this, I never thought that after all the routes that we've seen, watching all 22 video clips, watching all of this stuff, watching the videos, even Fox was showing the replay with Garrett Wilson, these guys running wide open, Elijah Moore last year. I thought that was a Zach Wilson issue. It turned out to be a Tim Boyle issue as well. I mean, are these guys, is it the seats at MetLife Stadium? I mean, you remember that story last year, right? When they would say, the seats are a little bit of green, the Jets uniforms, they kind of blend into the seats, and we can't see the receivers running down the field. Because I thought it was a Zach issue. I thought he just did not know how to read a defense. But Tim Boyle had the same freaking problem. It's one of two things, and I said this on the recap Sunday night. It is either Tim Boyle either did not recognize Garrett Wilson running wide open, or he had no confidence within himself that he could make the throw. And one thing I do know about Zach Wilson, he knows he can throw the ball down the field. He can do that at least. So with Tim Boyle, you had two burdens to shoulder instead of just the one with Zach. Okay, but my personal thought is it was Salah ultimately has to have the final call here. I'm sure he takes an input from Hackett. Maybe he does take some in from Douglas, from Todd Downing, the passing game coordinator. But yeah, at the end of the day, we all know Zach Wilson's the most talented quarterback on the roster, and we know he's not going to be here this year. So why the heck not play him? Why not? Wild Wave. Yeah, Salah was pressured. When you see Sauce suplex Diggs, you had to make a move to control the locker room. I understand why Salah benched him. You know what? You had to try. You had to try something different. I don't blame them for benching Zach because, I almost wish they'd done it a week or two sooner just to see. At least we would have found out, and then you could counter from there. I wish they had brought in Brett Rippon a couple of weeks prior also. I am not let me break this down with the quarterback thing. Now, there have been a lot of people criticizing Joe Douglas I admit I'm a Joe Douglas truther. I'm a defender of Joe Douglas. I think he is the best general manager the New York Jets have ever had. I know that's not saying a lot. It's like being the thinnest one at a Weight Watchers convention. It doesn't mean much. But people have been saying, okay, he should have signed a backup quarterback in the offseason once he brought in Aaron Rodgers, just in case due to the age. Well, a couple things with that. Put yourself in the position of a Teddy Bridgewater, of a Gardner Minshew. You name the backup quarterback who stepped out on the field, Mike White especially. Okay, if Gardner Minshew, because that's a big name. If I'm Gardner Minshew, I got two teams looking at me right now, just hypothetically. Let's just say it's the two teams. You got the Colts and you got the Jets. With the Jets, I see Aaron Rodgers. They still got Zach Wilson. I'm probably third on that depth chart. I look at the Colts. They got a rookie quarterback who may be raw. We don't know what he's going to be yet, and I'm going to be the second string quarterback. Where am I going to sign? Think about it. I don't care which team offers more money. I want a chance to play. If I'm a young veteran, if I'm a veteran quarterback, I want a chance to play. $4 million versus $5 million, for instance, it don't mean that much. So I don't blame these quarterbacks for not going to the Jets, because look at the starters: Aaron Rodgers, Anthony Richardson. See where I'm going with this? So I'm going to the place where I think I might have a chance to start. That's one reason Mike White left. That's why Teddy Bridgewater didn't come over here. It's for those reasons, and I don't blame Douglas for that. Now, I can blame him for not making a move during the course of the season once it wasn't starting to work out. Yes, Josh Dobbs was out there. You could have signed a Brett Rippon sooner, different moves like that. We'll never know for sure what was out there exactly, but yeah, during the season, that is where I could put some blame on Douglas. Nobody is above criticism, but you got to keep the criticism in a reasonable perspective. Well, Wave, I'm with you, man. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. With you on being a Joe Douglas truther, but to me, the good outweighs the bad. I had to mute a few people on Twitter this week. Just saying. I saw one guy say, I'm not going to mention his name. I don't want to give him the satisfaction, but he said, I'm starting to think Douglas got lucky in 2022 with that draft. Like, you don't get lucky with a draft when you have that many hits in one draft. No. You have a good scouting staff around you. You have, good assistants around you, and Rex Hogan and Chad Alexander. Now, I still trust this front office. I really do. I really, really do. As a matter of fact, okay, that's enough. The loop came on accidentally, so I wound up playing 3 times. I got to say this, guys. No matter how bad this team is, no matter how much they frustrate you, disappoint you, infuriate you, you hear that chat just for a few seconds, life feels good. There's just something about it. All right, so that's going to be the deal with the quarterback situation. And we'll talk about the Houston game a little bit more later on, but let's get into some of the injuries right now. We've had ACL. We had when the Jets get injuries, they come in runs. Like last year we had ACL issues. This year we had Achilles issues. Now it's ankles right now. John Franklin Myers, Jason Brownlee, and Breece Hall all missed practice today because of an ankle problem. My goodness. Wes Schweitzer didn't practice either with the calf injury. That scares me because I dread we got to see frickin' Xavier Newman, who's back on the practice squad, and I got as much desire to see him as I do to see Tim Boyle again, okay? CJ Uzama goes to IR, 3 years, $24 million, not very well spent. Good guy, never take that away from him. Good guy, I think, in the locker room, but the play just did not live up to the contract. That's it. He was just a run-of-the-mill tight end that ultimately he was more of a net negative, really, when it comes right down to it. But we get to welcome back Kenny Yeboah. I know one of my colleagues is super happy to have Kenny Yeboah back. I'm happy to have him too. It's going to give a lot more help to special teams, and they could use it over the last few weeks. And I'm going to tell you this, with this offense, between Ruckert, Conklin, and Yeboah, I hope the Jets run a lot, and I mean a lot, of 12 formation, maybe a little 13 formation. Why not do that? Let's run the ball. Let's do that. And you know what? If Zach's going to throw the ball down the field, you got to give these receivers a chance to get down the field, to get open. You might need that extra tight end. Why not do that? So, yeah, so I'm pretty excited. I think this is actually the best trio of tight ends the Jets are putting on the field. Because, yeah, I do happen to like Ebola, certainly as a special teams player. And we'll see if he does get some offensive snaps this week. It's going to be really interesting. Now, by the way, Houston's injuries, they got a few to pay attention to. A couple guys who did not practice today: George Fant, the ex-Jet, with a hip injury; Laramie Tunsil, their left tackle, he didn't practice today with a knee; Jimmy Ward, their safety, came over from San Francisco. He missed practice with a shoulder. Limited were Will Anderson, big deal; Noah Brown, the wide receiver, with a knee; Sheldon Rankins has elbow and shoulder issues. He was limited. And Dalton Schultz, the tight end, has a hamstring issue. So Houston does have some injuries worth monitoring. Okay, let's get into the snap counts. That's become something that we really enjoy doing, and we're going to do that with the offense for right now. So let's start with slide number 1. So the Jets had 68 snaps against the Falcons. That was up 10 from the previous week against Miami. So Tim Boyle played pardon me, it was Boyle and then Simeon. I don't even want to talk about the quarterbacks. But Breece Hall played 46 snaps. That was up 8 from the previous week. Dalvin Cook's his snaps went down 18. That was down 1. Certainly after the fumble, that limited his usage. You got to figure. Nick Barton got a little more time, which I like. I like that fullback. By the way, guys, hey, these Pro Bowl games are coming up. They listed, I think it was Samini who put out a tweet about Jets were in the top 10 in voting, and he mentioned Nick Barton being in the top 10 of fullbacks, which is great. There's just one problem. There's only, he was 9th. There's only 10 fullbacks eligible to vote. So right now, Barton is 9 out of 10. So let's give Nick Barton some Pro Bowl votes, why don't we? Izzy Abanikanda did not play. Supposedly he had an illness, but he was still apparently active for the game, which is very weird to me. I mean, if he wasn't going to play because he was sick, he should have been on the active list to begin with, right? All right, Ty Conklin, 50 snaps, up 15 from the previous week. Jeremy Ruckert, 28. That's pretty much where Ruckert seems to be falling into, about 25 to 30 snaps every game. CJ played just the 2 snaps before he unfortunately got hurt. And then wide receiver, Garrett Wilson played every single snap, all 68. Jason Brownlee, his time went down due to his ankle injury. He played 34 snaps. Now that was down 22. He went from 50, he played 56 of 58 last week. Didn't do much, but this week it was just 50%, 34 out of 68. Now, Xavier Gipson, man, I got to tell you guys, let me see your thoughts on Gipson. I'm getting a little more excited about him. 5 catches for, I think, 77 yards. He showed some ability. I feel like he is the one receiver out of this whole group, out of the 4 or 5 guys they brought in, who looks like he could be a legitimate contributor as a wide receiver. He got 48 snaps, up 6, and he had more catches than any other Jet in this game. Alan Lazard, 32 snaps. He was inactive the previous week. And Charles and Randall Cobb played the last week. They did not get any snaps this week. And the offensive line, pretty straightforward. You had Carter Warren, Laken Tomlinson, Joe Tippmann, Wes Schweitzer, and Mekhi Becton playing all 68 snaps. I feel like it's pretty much a good week at this point when the Jets only have to play 5 offensive linemen. But we look at a couple of stats with this offense where it is. I mean, every week there's a new set of stats, and it just epitomizes how bad this offense is. The Jets failed to score a touchdown for the 3rd time in their last 5 games, and they're the first team since the 1993 Bengals to score 10 or fewer offensive touchdowns through 12 games. Now, Tim Boyle, the since released Tim Boyle, I'm sorry, my bottle, I got a leak here. Go figure. Tim Boyle had an off-target throw percent. I never heard of an off-target throw percentage, but apparently it exists, of 28%. So 28% of his snaps were off the mark. That is the 5th highest mark of any quarterback in a single game this season. He was relieved by Trevor Siemian, who had an off-target throw percentage of 30.8%, the 2nd worst mark this season. But at least Siemian tried to throw the ball downfield a little bit. GBH, agree. Xavier Gipson should be our slot over Randall Cobb. Wish Lazard was worth anything. Lazard's one of those players who's only worth a damn when he gets to play with a great quarterback. I don't know what else it is. Eventually, when you're having the same issues with multiple quarterbacks, it's not on the quarterback anymore. And again, Lazard to me was meant to be a third receiver, a third outside, the third outside receiver behind Corey Davis, and McCole Hardman should have been in the slot. One day it's going to be very interesting to find out about Hardman and what really, really went down. I don't know if we're going to find out for a little bit, but Hardman hasn't done a whole heck of a lot with Kansas City either. In fact, he's on IR right now. Hopefully, he does he gets better soon. But it's not like he went back to Kansas City and has become that much-needed number one wide receiver that Patrick Mahomes has been looking for ever since Tyreek Hill left. Yep, GBH off the mark throws. It's exactly right. They're literally coming up. I think PFF, their job, they have like an intern whose job it is to come up with new offensive metrics to just demonstrate how pathetic the Jets offense is. Yeah, he probably gets his $11 an hour, whatever the minimum wage is in the state that he lives in. He said, just find a new way to prove how bad the Jets offense sucks. I wouldn't be surprised if there's one guy who spends 8 hours a day doing crap like that. Man, oh man. But I want to talk, the next player I want to talk about, enough quarterbacks. I can't talk about quarterbacks anymore, guys. Everybody's been talking quarterbacks. I'm beating my head against the wall. Breece Hall. I have seen some criticism online about a couple of players that I think are very unwarranted, and Breece Hall is number one among them. I saw one guy, pretty well-respected Bills guy, has a Bills podcast, also does an NFL draft podcast. Does a pretty good job. I consider him to be pretty smart. But he said right before the Jets-Bills game, the second one, that the Bills cannot be regretting anymore missing out on Breece Hall and instead getting James Cook. And I went after him. He didn't have the nerve to respond to me, but I went after him and just said, are you even watching how little room Breece Hall has to run with? How the box is stacked? How the offensive line is not able to open a hole when they're down 4 starters for him? So heading into that last game, Breece Hall had 569 yards rushing. 407 of those yards came after contact. And against Atlanta, he had 13 carries. You know how many yards he had before getting contact? That many. 0, zilch, nada. None of it. Okay, 13 carries. He could not get a single yard before the just immortal Atlanta Falcons run defense was in his face, before Calais Campbell was there, before David Onyemata was there, or whatever the hell his name is. Absolutely inexplicable. And the first contact came in the backfield on 7 of those 13 carries. Barry Sanders and Walter Payton would struggle to get positive yardage in this offense right now. And as good as Breece Hall is, it is really, really frustrating that even last week when the Jets brought a couple of starters back, that they cannot figure out ways to open up space for Breece Hall. And to me, that is to me, I have to put that on the coaching. I'm putting that on the run game coordinator. I'm putting it on Keith Carter. I'm putting it on Nathaniel Hackett. You've got some good blocking tight ends. You've got a good blocking fullback. Mekhi Becton should be able to run people over with as a run blocker with his size. Again, ever since Elijah Vera Tucker went down last year and this year, the run game has gone to shit. And that's the only way I could say it. The run game is absolutely, I'll make it more PG, non-existent with Elijah Vera Tucker missing. I hate to say it's one guy, but 2 years in a row, it's been one guy. It really, really has. And by the way, can somebody tell me why the Jets released Michael Carter? It was to open up new opportunities for Israel Abanikanda. Well, Izzy has 1 rushing attempt this season, which, by the way, went for 11 yards in garbage time against Buffalo in Week 11. He's played 10 offensive snaps and none in the last 2 weeks. But now they say they're not playing him. And look, I think Robert Saleh has his pros, he has his cons. I try not to hold too much against him for what he says in a press conference because, let's be honest, as a head coach in a press conference, you have to lie. I don't advocate lying, but in that spot, I understand why you have to do it. You have to manipulate. You can only say so much. You got to lie by omission. You got to do all that stuff. But it came out that they didn't want to play Izzy because he didn't really understand pass protection, picking up the blitz, and things like this. Call me crazy, but shouldn't the Jets coaching staff have figured that out before they released Michael Carter? And now Carter's played 40 snaps through 2 weeks in Arizona. He's averaging 5.5 yards per carry, has 4 missed tackles forced through 2 games. Of course, he couldn't force 1 missed tackle as a Jet this year. But it's like, if you're opening the spot for Izzy Abanikanda, shouldn't you have a better feel for what his strengths are and what his weaknesses are, and if he is able to play in the offense? To me, this seems like absolute common sense. And to me, that's where I have to blame the coaching. Because they got to know what these players are capable of doing. So they release Carter to play a rookie who isn't able to play. And now they're essentially playing 2 running backs. See, that just makes no sense. It's not to me, that's why it's not just the talent, it's the brains. It's not making sense. Hey, Vervain, how you doing? Going by your Devils last night. No team can lose on purpose. You don't do that. But now that at least the players can go out there and give a half-ass effort. I mean, they still have contracts to play for. They still have jobs. If you're doing that, then you're going to get called out on it. No doubt about it. Now that we are all but eliminated, I couldn't care less if we win another game in a year with a stacked draft class. I hear what you're saying, Ravane, and I agree. I will say it gets very frustrating game after game. I've gotten to the point where I pretty much want to avoid social media for about 24 hours after the game because all we're going to hear is fire this guy, fire that guy, cut this guy, cut that guy, and it just gets old after a while. It's really getting to that point where I don't even want to be on for the next day because for that reason. It's getting it's getting annoying because I don't want to have to deal with that for the next 5 weeks. This team is what it is. Put it this way. What else are we going to learn about this team in the last 5 weeks of the year that we don't already know? What else is there to learn about the Jets? We know what they are. The verdict is in. Great defense, great special teams, and maybe the worst offense the NFL has seen in decades. And a coach... and the coaching staff, hey, it depends which one you're talking about. Defensive coaches, fantastic job. Brant Boyer, my God, he survives regime after regime. Brant Boyer is unbelievable. But this offensive coaching staff, especially Hackett, and my gosh. And I wonder about Keith Carter because I liked him as like that bad cop guy, as the run game coordinator, the offensive line coach, and I know he's had to deal with a lot of injuries. But I wish he could get this unit to play a little bit better than it has. Now, doing a great job with Joe Tippmann. Joe Tippmann is doing an amazing job. This guy, he didn't allow a pass rush. It's pretty amazing what Joe Tippmann's capable of doing. So I'm very excited about him for sure. I want to hit the chat up a little bit. Then we'll get into the defense. Talk about some defensive stats for a little bit. We got Thomas Fitzpatrick. Hello to you as well. Guys, check out Thomas's channel. He does a lot of live streams. I've seen him do hockey, seen him do football. But Thomas is just sort of like the jack of all trades. Not going to tell you who he roots for, but I will tell you Thomas is a good dude. So go check his channels out and give him a subscription if you haven't already. He's a good guy. We got the great Mo Dean here. I haven't seen Mo in a while. Man, Mo Dean is one of a kind. No question about it, man. It's good to see you here. It is good to see you. Brees is either not the same after his injury or he is tired because he missed preseason. You know what, Mo? I gotta be when you're not the one thing I could say about the numbers I gave you a moment ago about the yards where he gets hit in the backfield, where the yards after contact, could he be missing a little bit of explosiveness? Quite possibly. That is the one thing I would say there. But I feel like the teams are just stacked up against the offensive line because they know that the Jets are not going to consistently beat them through the passing game. It's almost like we're watching a carbon copy of what we saw last season. I'm not worried about Breece Hall. I'm not worried about his future. I'm really, really not. That's just how I feel. So, okay, let's get into the defense a little bit. I'm going to move over to that. Let's look at the defensive snaps. So they had 68 snaps last week, down 2 from the previous week. Let's look at the defensive line. So Quinnen had 44 snaps, down 5 from the previous week, so about the same percentage. John Franklin-Myers played 42, no change. Jermaine Johnson, his snaps went down a little bit, 41, that's down 7. Quentin Jefferson. And by the way, how good of a signing was Quentin Jefferson? Man, another very, very good free agent signing that unfortunately feels like it's going to get lost because the season has been so disappointing. But don't let anybody tell you that DJ Reed is the only good free agent the Jets have had in the last 3 years, because it's just not true. It's not reality. It's just not. So Quentin played 35 snaps. Bryce Huff, who has been a little bit harder to notice the last couple of weeks, 33 snaps, played about half of it. Solomon Thomas got a little bit more time, 32 snaps. Very good guy, Solomon Thomas. I think we can all agree on that. Michael Clemens, I thought played a little bit. I thought his level of play went up a little bit last week. 22 snaps, but it was nice to see him not get a penalty, which I can't say about most of this roster. But he went up 6 snaps. Perrion Winfrey, and all our best to Perrion. His first game, and he gets hurt. Season-ending injury. Played 13 snaps. Will McDonald played 12 snaps. Tanzel Smart did not play in this game. That was another thing. What was the website? The Twitter account. U Stadium, right? U Stadium. The letter U Stadium. Sometimes they put some good stuff out, but sometimes they put some trash out. And they put some trash out. They said, how worried must Jets fans feel over Will McDonald with his lack of playing time? And it's like, you know what? If you watch Will McDonald, you see the explosiveness. You see the speed. You see the quickness. It's just he's stuck behind a lot of very good players right now. But I could definitely see the year 1 to year 2 jump that we saw from Jermaine Johnson. Now, McDonald is not maybe the two-way defensive end that JJ is, playing the run and the pass. But as the pass rushing specialist, I think we'll see a lot more of Will McDonald next season. I'm not worried about him. I'm really not. Wild Wave, I don't understand how we can't avoid Mo. He just finds a way to find us. Mo is pretty. Mo is he's a resourceful guy. You know, he calls his contacts at the CIA, and boom, he just hooks up with whoever has a podcast at the moment. The great Tigo. Always good to see my friend Tigo. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope the family's having a good night down there in Florida. It is very possible, Wild Wave. I know we've been talking about the possibility of Bryce Huff getting re-signed. We've all wanted him to get paid, but I do think Will McDonald was drafted with the intention that he would replace Bryce Huff, except Huff had an absolutely amazing first half of the season that, people just didn't see coming. You know what? Positive run stopper, I haven't noticed it quite as much. But put it this way, even if he's a positive run stopper, I think he could definitely become better. And I mean that, and that's a good thing. That he has more to give going forward. So, yeah, I'm not overly worried about WM4 or WMC, whatever his name's going to be. All right, linebacker, CJ Mosley played every snap as he always does. Quincy Williams, 66, missed just 2 snaps. Jamian Sherwood makes sense against a running team, had a lot more time, 16 snaps. Don't count on him playing as much this week against Houston, who loves to throw the ball. As far as the secondary goes, Sauce and DJ played all 68. Brandon Eccles' snaps went down a lot, down to 36, and that's because Michael Carter came back in. Carter played 34 snaps. Bryce Hall was not active for this game. I would expect Eccles and Hall to play. If I'm the Jets, I'm dressing every cornerback next week for next week against Houston, because they got so many different receivers that they throw to. I think I don't have the exact stat in front of me, but I think there's 8 different Texans receivers who have at least 100 yards receiving. And now that they've lost Tank Dell for the year, a guy who, by the way, a lot of us wanted before the season. Tank Dell was a name definitely mentioned in the draft circles, among a lot of content creators. I remember Tank Dell. But now, CJ Stroud's going to have to find another target. Of course, he has Nico Collins, but who's going to be that next target? I'll give you one. I'm going to get into this one stat a little bit. I think the stat I have, I'm going to get into it a little bit later, but I'll be sure to mention it in a moment when we get to the 5 Houston Texans snaps. I'll get into that in a little bit. But Ashton Davis played 19 snaps. He is getting better and better. All of a sudden, that's turning out to be one of the best draft picks from that class. Drafted too high with a 3rd-round pick, maybe so. But this is the year Davis has become like a reliable defensive player, and he was already a very good special teams player. So who knows? Maybe Davis actually gets that second contract. Maybe he becomes like Nathan Shepard was. Maybe not a beloved player, but a useful player for what he does. Maybe that could happen. Adrian Amos. did not play, and now he is off to Houston. Brevane says Noah Brown is pretty damn good. Yeah, he is, but he doesn't get targeted a lot. He's got like 21 targets all season, but he does make an impact with the targets he does get. But, you've got John Mechie, you've got Xavier Hutchinson, who, by the way, wasn't even active last week. You got 2 tight ends in Dalton Schultz, who's hurt, but you've also got, I'll just tell you, Brevin Jordan. Last week, there were only 2 Texans who had multiple receptions in that game. I think it was against Denver. Nico Collins and Brevin Jordan. Those are the only 2. So you don't know where the ball's going to go. That's why you're going to need a lot of cornerbacks. I expect a lot of nickel and a lot of dime from the Jets this week. That's what I think they got to do. Okay, a couple things on the defense. I want to give guys. Let's get this thing out of here. Jermaine Johnson. I want to give him some love. 6 pressures in this game against Atlanta. 3 quarterback hits. 1.5 sacks. For the season, JJ is at 6.5 sacks. 41 pressures. 13 quarterback hits. 8 tackles for a loss and 41 overall tackles. Not to mention a forced fumble and 4 passes defense. He is becoming an absolute machine on the defensive line. And just another reason why guys like Carl Lawson and Will McDonald are having some trouble getting on the field. And then with the secondary, the Jets have the best quarterback trio in football. I don't think there's anybody else who can really compete. Maybe a Cleveland or somebody like that is somewhat close, but I think that's really about it. Sauce, DJ, and Michael Carter on Sunday were targeted 13 times total. They allowed to a combined 3 catches for just 17 yards, barely over a yard per target. That is unbelievable. I know Desmond Ridder stinks. Every week when I do my picks, it feels like I'm ripping Desmond Ridder, right? But still, fantastic job in a league that is so tailored towards offense and with an officiating crew that was penalizing the Jets every situation that they could have had. Wildwave, you make a good point. Yeah, imagine if the Jets had leads. Imagine if the Jets were ahead and the other team had to throw the ball. See, that's why I felt the Jets could win 10 or 11 games. Because with the offense, humming, they could get ahead by 10, 7 to 10 to 13 points in the fourth quarter. The other team is in a position where they got to throw the ball a little bit more, and the Jets could tee off with between the pass rush and the great corner coverage ability. It made sense as a way to win games. And I still think that is a way you can win football games in 2023. And I still think it's a way you can win football games going into 2024. So I agree with the philosophy. It's just when you lost number 8, you lost everything. And the coaches couldn't counter. They won some games, but a lot of it was with smoke and mirrors and the defense and special teams doing everything. When there has not been a game this year where the offense bailed out the defense or the special teams. It hasn't happened because they're not capable of it. The best teams, even forget the best teams, just average teams that are just kind of hanging around the playoff race, right? Look at the Indianapolis Colts. Not a great team, but there are weeks when the offense bails out the D. There's weeks where the D bails out the offense. And as a result, they're still technically in the wild card standings right now. They're still in the mix. So, it's just disappointing, guys. It's disappointing. All right, guys. I'm gonna move on here to Tankathon, and let's take a look at where we are here. All right, so I'm gonna go through basically about 13 teams or so. We're gonna look at the standings, look at the remaining schedules, look at a routing guide, and try to get a feel for what we need to pay attention to, and we'll go from there. We got the great Jets receivers need to use Stickum. That'd be a good idea, but I think a few in particular. We got the great Johnny Jimenez. You're back. That's who's back. All right, so Carolina 1-11, and we put in the strength of schedule because that's the tiebreaker, and I also put in, like last week, the remaining strength of schedule, and in the number of parentheses, a 1 would be the hardest, 32 is the easiest remaining schedule. Okay, so Carolina, forget it. 1 win. New England has 2 wins. You could pretty much forget it too. New England is not going to win, even if they beat the Jets. And we'll look at the schedule in a moment. But New England is not going to win 2 more games. They're not going to win another game besides the Jet game. Not with that offense, they're not. Arizona 3-10. strength of schedule 559. You got Washington at 4-9, 522. Both those teams have pretty hard schedules, which could definitely work in the favor of the Jets if they finish tied with one of those teams. All right. So that's a big deal. The Bears, that is a big team to watch here, guys. The Chicago Bears, we got to be rooting for the Bears. You know, we got to go for the Bears. All right. 4-8. All right. Tied with the Jets, but a 471 strength of schedule, well ahead of the Jets. Plus, the Bears have a little bit harder remaining strength of schedule, but not enough where it would make an impact. So we really want the Bears to win one of these 5 remaining games. Jets are at 4-8, 5-12. I'm going to take that back real quick. I apologize. And the Jets have the 22nd hardest strength of schedule. So they got a relatively easy schedule left over, which could help them with the tiebreaker situation. Okay, so you've got Chicago at 4-8. You've got the Jets at 4-8. All right, now I'm going to spin the cube. Let's go to the next slide. There we go. Okay, so the Giants are at 4-8. Tennessee's at 4-8. A little bit behind the Jets on strength of schedule, but look how hard these schedules are. The Giants and Tennessee have the 3rd and 4th hardest schedule, respectively, remaining. Now, one game behind the Jets, you've got 4 teams: New Orleans, Tampa Bay, the Raiders, and the Chargers. All 5-7. New Orleans has a cupcake schedule the rest of the way. Tampa Bay does as well. So their strength of schedule for New Orleans is 367. Tampa Bay is 429. Now, just to remind you, with the Jets, that strength of schedule is 512. So here's what that means. If New Orleans or Tampa Bay finishes tied with the Jets, they're likely passing the Jets in the draft order. So if you're rooting for a tank, you're rooting for the best spot, you want New Orleans and Tampa Bay to both win a game at some point. And by the way, yes, they do play head-to-head later on in this season. Okay? And as for the Raiders and the Chargers, we'll see. Their strength of schedules are both above 500, but they are relatively a little bit more difficult than what the Jets have. And then you got 5 teams at 6-6: Buffalo, Denver, Seattle, the Rams, and the Bengals. I don't expect that'll be coming into play. I personally don't think the Jets are winning 2 more games this season, but let's see. Okay, so as far as the remaining schedules go, all right. Now, the Jets are currently 6th in the standings, and we pretty much know what's left there. But I wanted to take a look at the schedule just to kind of have a feel, not so much to make a prediction, but to get a feel for what these teams have left. So New England, all right. So New England, to catch the Jets, to finish tied with the Jets, would have to win twice. So obviously they play the final week of the season in Foxborough. But along with that, New England is at Pittsburgh, home against Kansas City, at Denver, and at Buffalo. So outside of Thursday, maybe, and I'm only saying that because Mitch Trubisky is playing quarterback, you tell me who New England's beaten on this list. Anybody think they're beating Kansas City going to Mile High and winning, or beating Buffalo, who will be in a playoff race? I don't see it happening. So to me, I just don't see New England as a team that the Jets are going to pass, but they're going to go quarterback anyway, so I'm not exactly worried about it. Because the way I'm feeling right now, I want the Jets to help the offense, but I want somebody who will play next season, not in 3 years. That's where I am. Arizona, they got their bye this week. Then they've got San Francisco at home, at Chicago, at Philly, and home against Seattle. So with 4 games left, San Francisco and at Philly, very, very difficult games to win. You know, you look at the Chicago game, that might be the most winnable game they have left. At least the game against Seattle is in Arizona and not in the state of Washington. As for the Command Skims, quick swig of water. All right. Washington has their bye week. Then they've got the Rams at home, at the Jets. San Francisco. It's amazing how much San Francisco is coming up here. But they got San Francisco at home against Dallas. Now, I got to say, Washington's been playing kind of tough. And the fact that 3 of these 4 games are in their building and their 1 road game is against the Jets. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that Washington could win 1 game. But even if they finish, Washington and the Jets, Washington is likely going to have the worst strength of schedule. It's going to be a harder strength of schedule. So if the Jets and Washington finish tied, there's a very good chance the Jets will have the better draft pick. But that head-to-head game is obviously going to be pivotal. Let's see. GVH, he's saying that Juan Soto is the trade on. Let's see here. Oh, well, I do have other news. Eduardo Rodriguez is going to Arizona on a 4-year contract for $20 million a year. So we got some breaking news. That is a pretty dang good contract. I figured it'd be 4 years at least. It was the Reds and the Diamondbacks, and he made his decision. So it didn't even take till Thursday. The decision was made tonight. So Rodriguez said, okay, it was not the Reds. Okay, so Ken Rosenthal said it was the Reds, but then he corrected himself. But we now know where Rodriguez is going to be going. And then, okay, I'm just looking to see. Yep, Jeff Passan 5 minutes ago did say that the deal is done. So Rodriguez to the Diamondbacks, and Juan Soto will be a Yankee for about another 12 months. All right. So that's some big news in baseball. Hey, the big football news we broke was the Denzel Mims trade when we were first starting to do this. I think it was the first night, which is pretty crazy. Hey, G, would we want to draft in the top 5, trade down for a nice haul, or trade that pick for Davante Adams? See, my thing is, what are you going to trade up for? It's going to be a quarterback, and there's really the 2 quarterbacks that stand out above the others. I don't think the Jets are finishing in the top 2. Okay. So you might get an extra pick or two, maybe an extra pick or 2 back. My personal thought is I want to get the best receiver or offensive lineman that I can possibly get. I don't want to trade for Davante Adams. I don't want to take the salary on. I don't want to have another aging older veteran at this point, even if he has the chemistry with Rock. What are you going to have to give up to get Adams? We're limited on draft capital anyway. So I want to build up some things with the offense. We've built up a pipeline for the defense. I want to do the same thing for the offense. God knows they need a wide receiver, but it's a heck of a free agent class at wide receiver, The T. Higgins, the Mike Evans of the world, and all that's going to cost you is money. So to me, I'm not really interested in trading for Davante Adams, concerning what you got to give up to get him. So that's kind of how I feel. So my hope is that Harrison or Alt will drop to us. I mean, I like Alt probably the most of any offensive lineman, just from the reports that I've read. That's kind of like how I feel. Okay, so yes, and I'm actually very happy as a Met fan. Trent Grisham is out of San Diego. So Trent Grisham is now gone. Grisham actually absolutely torched the Mets in that playoff series. My God. Yeah, but you know what? Like I said earlier, we said this at the beginning of the show. The Yankees needed left-handed power, and they need some reliability because, let's face it, Stanton is as unreliable as a politician, and Judge, he can be a little injury-prone. So at least you can be very confident Soto is going to play. But again, don't get too frustrated when he's going up there and looking for a walk, like he's Pete Rose or Ty Cobb, okay? But all right, so let's go to the Bears. Now, the Bears are a big one because they're tied with the Jets in record, but the Bears have the better strength of schedule. So if there's any team we want to win, it's the Bears. Bear down, Chicago Bears, or whatever. So they host Detroit. They're at Cleveland, home against Arizona, home against Atlanta, and at Green Bay. Now, I will say this for the Detroit game, it's going to be on bad weather in Chicago this weekend. That could, if there's some bad weather going on, that might mess with the Detroit passing game a little bit. And I will say that Chicago, they're tied with San Francisco for the best run defense in football and rushing yards per game. I wouldn't have thought that, but they have a very good run defense. Detroit has the 4th best run offense, so that's a matchup to pay attention to this week. Is how well is Detroit running the ball with Montgomery and Gibbs against that Chicago front 7. Going to be interesting. But at Cleveland, you know what? I'm not calling that an unwinnable game anymore. I'm really not. Arizona, definitely the case. That's definitely a toss-up. Atlanta, how many people are really impressed with what they've seen from the Falcons? The Falcons are still a 500 team, and they still have Desmond freaking Ridder at quarterback. I think Chicago can beat them, especially in the bad weather, potentially. And at Green Bay, hey, tough game. Green Bay will likely be playing for a playoff spot, but I can tell you, Bears-Packers, it's like Rangers-Islanders. You throw the record out. It's like Mets-Yankees. Set the record to the side because these two teams are going to go to war. That's what's going to happen there. And then looking at the Giants and the Titans, you got the Giants hosting the Packers at the Saints. They've got two games against Philly, plus they host the Rams. So the Giants, I think, are definitely going to struggle down the stretch. Can they win one more game? I think that's fair to say. Tennessee is at Miami, home against Houston. Seattle at Houston again. So they got two Houston games, home against Jacksonville. I think it's going to be pretty tough for Tennessee to win one of those games. I think Tennessee is going to be in a very, very difficult spot the rest of the way. So, but hey, we'll see what happens with the Titans. But yeah, again, the biggest team really is going to be the Bears. But the strength of schedule, as long as the Jets finish tied with these two teams, the Jets will finish ahead of them in the draft standings, and that's the most important thing there. Okay, so as far as the rooting guide for Week 14, got to root for the Patriots over the Steelers. Then the Bears over the Bucks, even though the Bucks are pretty close to where the Jets are. They got 5 wins. We need the Bears to win. We really need that. We want the Saints to beat the Panthers because the Jets are not catching the number 1 spot, and the Saints are not that far out. Raiders over the Vikings, Chargers over the Broncos, and then Monday, the Titans over the Dolphins. I'll give everybody a moment to stop laughing, and the Giants over the Packers. So those are really the 7 games to pay attention to as far as a rooting guide if what you're rooting for is the Jets' best draft position. Okay, so let's get that out of here. By the way, you know what I find really funny? I just got to say this about with the Patriots situation. The Patriots defense, their defense, even without Matthew Judon, actually without Christian Gonzalez, they've given up 10 points, 10 points, and 6 points in their last 3 games. They have a very good defense and a completely inept offense, especially a quarterback. For 20 years, guys, we've wanted to be the New England Patriots. Now we are. We've arrived. We're the Patriots. Well, what I'm really talking about there is just the best possible draft position. It's not necessarily for a specific draft spot. The Jets are not going to finish number 1 because, they're 3 wins past Carolina. I think it's going to be difficult for them to even catch New England because New England is 2 wins up. And again, I just don't see. I'm gonna pull this. I'm gonna pull this back up here. Let's go back to the first slide. So New England has a 517 remaining strength of schedule. They do have a tougher strength of schedule than the Jets. So if they finish tied, the Jets could pass them. But again, if we look at the New England schedule that's left, at Pittsburgh, Kansas City, at Denver, at Buffalo, which one of those 4 games are they going to win? If they don't do it Thursday night, I'd say it's next to no chance that they win any of those 3. And again, the only reason I give them a snowball's chance in hell in Pittsburgh is because Mitchell Trubisky is playing quarterback. But, I think it's going to be a very low-scoring game. I think, if there's one of those 4 games they'll win, it will be this one because I think it's going to be an ugly, low-scoring game. I would be shocked if either of those teams gets past 14 points. Shocked. That's where I really feel as far as that goes. So there's a chance at the number 2, but it's going to take it would take everything kind of coming together. But it is possible. But then you would also need Arizona because with Arizona, I think they're a win clear of the Jets. Yeah, they're 3-10. So then the Jets would have to make up a game on Arizona. Yeah, Arizona's got a pretty tough strength of schedule, 559. Yeah, the Jets would pass Arizona on the tiebreakers also. Arizona's at 559. Jets are at 512, right? So we need at least 1 win from Arizona, and that could be maybe at Chicago, but I think that's a long shot. I don't know about Arizona. I think that's a tough one. It's like I almost feel like we got to root for Arizona at Chicago because I feel better about Chicago winning one of their other 4 games than I do about Arizona winning one of their other 3 games. If that makes sense. I think Chicago, I can make an argument for them winning at Cleveland, beating Atlanta. It's very hard for me to make an argument for Arizona beating Frisco, beating Philadelphia on the road, or beating Seattle. So, yeah, I think that's kind of what I'm feeling. I think I'd be rooting for Arizona at Chicago in that game. Yeah. Well, wait. Washington best bet for wins is against us and the Rams. Yeah, no question about it. No question about that. I just think the Chicago Detroit game is not a layup for the Lions. I don't think it's a layup, especially if the weather is that bad. If it's like a snowy day where, because I heard that may happen. If that happens, watch out. So. Okay, all right. Let's go to the 5 key stats. Wow, it's 11:10 already. Man, I think I better plug the computer in real quick just in case. Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. It's frustrating that I feel like for years up until this year, my goal was to around week 14, week 15, go to ESPN, go to Yahoo, go to the playoff machine, and have a realistic scenario where the Jets can make the playoffs. And I'm here to tell you, the Jets can still make the playoffs, but it would take about 30 games going a certain way. The odds are just so ridiculous. I mean, it is like 1,000th of 1% at this point. It is just so absurd. All right. Well, I'm gonna do just a couple of stats about Houston. Just to look at that. Yep, we got the Texans dark blue, the steel blue as they call it there. All right, so 5 things with them. Actually, no, let's see if we can blow this up. Not that one, this one. Okay, that's a little better. All right, through 12 games, C.J. Stroud is leading the NFL with 3,540 passing yards. This is putting him on pace to throw for 5,015 yards this season, which would be a rookie record. It's amazing. As Jets, we think 3,000 for a whole season would be an act of God. It just crazy, absolutely crazy. Houston has 8 players with 100 receiving yards or more, so it's really all about spreading it out. CJ Stroud is like a point guard looking for the best option. Our old buddy Blake Cashman has a team-high 84 tackles. God bless him, he's been healthy. Houston has only 27 sacks, though. That is the 4th fewest in the NFL. All right, so that maybe Zach will have some time to throw in this game. That's pretty encouraging. Houston, though, is +7 in turnovers. Only 4 teams are better: San Francisco, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, and Dallas. Those are the only 4 teams doing better than Houston in turnovers. Okay, let's get that out of there. All right, guys, it is about 11. It's almost 11:15 tonight. We've been here for a while, and now it's time to have a little bit of fun. It is time for some Jets trivia. Okay, so we're going to do a little Jets versus Texans trivia question. Just checking the likes right now. If you were here last week, we did a little spin the wheel game. I actually made some new wheels this past week with some other topics. And will we do it tonight? Yeah, we may. It all depends on the number of likes. So what I need you to do is hit that thumbs up button. Right now, I think we've got, from what I'm seeing, we've got 13 likes. I think if we get to, I'll tell you what, if we get to 15 likes after trivia, we'll do a little spin the wheel and we'll try to create a little, we'll try to create a list. All right. Okay, let's put the trivia question on the screen. We're going to give you 5 minutes, and it's going to be Jets versus Texans related. So here we go. Wrong slide. Right slide. So the Jets had a famous 30-27 win over Houston back in 2010. This is the play where Sanchez drove the Jets down the field. There were 4 Jets who had either double or triple-digit receiving yards. Name them. Okay, so there were 4 Jets who had 10 yards or more receiving in that game. So that's basically what that means. So we need 4 names here. I'll be monitoring the chat, and your 5 minutes is already underway. I haven't seen Nick here. He usually shows up and is kind of leading the charge on the trivia. But we still got some very serious hardcore Jets fans, so I know you know a little bit about the Jets. Vervain, let's see here. Vervain's got a guess, and he says that it is Jericho Cotchery. Not quite. All right, we've got, let's see, Santonio Holmes, both Modine and Wild Wave. They both said Santonio. Very good. Very, very good. Yep, Santonio led the Jets with 126 yards receiving in that game. What's up, Holmes? Okay, so you got three to go. Modine, give it to Wild Wave. Wild Wave, you're going to be the captain tonight. It's you and me, man to man. Hank G comes in and says, LaDainian Tomlinson. Is it LaDainian Tomlinson? It sure is. LaDainian Tomlinson had 71 yards receiving in that game. Yep, you're exactly right. So you got Holmes and you got Tomlinson, and this is 2010. So it was a good season for the Jets. I mean, it was a pretty memorable season. So it wasn't like some nondescript 2017 or, putting like Dan Brown and Ryan Griffin at tight end, right? Wild Wave says Leon Washington. No. No, I don't even think. Yeah, Leon was. I think Leon was done by then, or he was certainly injured by then. Hank G asks, "Who was the tight end back then?" Well, hey, Hank G says, "Yep, Dustin Keller." Dustin Keller, is that a correct answer? I'm afraid not. Dustin Keller did not have double-digit receiving yards in that game. Surprising one, I know, right? But no, not Dustin Keller. Both of these players are wide receivers. I will tell you that. One you definitely know. One you should definitely get. One is very difficult. I will admit that. Modine Keller was always a bum anyway. If he hadn't hurt his knee, he could have been a very good tight end for a while. But yeah, he got hurt. The most frustrating Dustin Keller play for me was that opening game against the Ravens in 2010 or 2011 when it was like 3rd and 6, and Sanchez throws him the pass and he goes out of bounds 1 yard short when he didn't have to. That was so frustrating. Very, very frustrating. Wild Wave says Brad Smith. That's a good guess, but it is not correct. I'm not going to give you the buzzer on that because that was a good one. Vervain trying to go deep with the obscure answer, Clyde Gates. Not correct either. All right, guys, we've got 1 minute to go on the clock. The trade is as reported. Soto and Grisham for King, Brito, Drew Thorpe, Randy Vasquez, and Kyle Higashioka. Yep, pretty much what we expected. All right. Well, the Padres clear their space. They get some pitching that they absolutely needed. Oh, by the way, I got an update on the Eduardo Rodriguez contract with options and bonuses. The deal, instead of being 4 years, $80 million, could be 5 years, $99 million. Wow. Wow, $599. That's a rich contract. Okay, guys, got 15 seconds left. Oh, guys, come on. There's one receiver. If you don't mention him, you're going to kick yourselves. I'm positive I didn't see it in the chat. I'm double checking. Yep, haven't seen it yet. 3, 2, 1. All right, that's time. All right, let's see. This receiver, the more notable one, he didn't spend as much time with the Jets. Yep, Vervain, there we go. Braylon Edwards. Very good. Okay. That is I Google but won't cheat. Yeah, okay. Modine, Modine, let me explain. If you Googled, you cheated. Here's the sad part. If we gave you the first name Patrick, how many people know the last name? I think a few might, but yeah, it was just to give you the answer since Modine looked it up. Santonio Holmes, Braylon Edwards, LaDainian Tomlinson, and Patrick Turner with 21 yards. All right. So that is the trivia answer for the night. Thanks for playing along. All right, let's take one more look here at the chat. I think it's 14. I think we're up to 14 likes. Yeah, I'm willing to do a little wheel round tonight, but yeah, I need. I think we need one more like. I need 15. We had 14 likes. I need a 15th. We do that. I'll stay up with you a little bit, and we'll come up with a and we'll do a little wheel exercise. Have a little fun. Modine, great game. Thank you very much. Wow, wait, Patrick who? Yep, exactly my point. All right. Okay, guys, I'll tell you what. It's 11:20. Yeah, I could hang for a little bit, but hey, I will. Let's go ahead and say congratulations to Yankee fans. I think some are very happy about it. Some are not so happy about it, but you'll have a very exciting player for at least 1 year. Let's see if he winds up staying. Okay. Yep, we got the 15 now. Yep, I see it now. I feel like I have to exit out and then click back on it. Yep, I got the 15 too. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's see what we're gonna do. So here's what I did, guys. I'm gonna let you make the decision. So last week we had the wheel of 100 random Jets, where I shared the screen. We ran the wheel for anybody who's not here, who went here last week. We ran the wheel, had 100 Jets on it, and we decided where they would rank on a Jets top 10 list from 1 to 10. Okay, and then the idea is you pick each number as you go along, and you hope that your list reflects 1 to 10 in order. We came pretty close last week, but not close enough. All right, so here's what I got. I got the 100 random Jets. I also have one for just Jets quarterbacks. I've got Jets draft classes, Jets seasons, and Jets head coaches. So we have 5 wheels to choose from now. So you could do players, quarterbacks, drafts, seasons, or coaches. So I'm gonna watch the comments. I want to see what you all want to do. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of put it down. I don't know if I could do a poll. If I could do a poll, I would, but I'm just gonna type this in. Okay, so those are the 5 options: players, quarterbacks, drafts, seasons, or coaches. So tell me which one you want to do. I will say this, with the quarterbacks and coaches, we would only do 5 because there's only so many. Like there's been like 20 some coaches. If we do a top 10, we'll get repeats. I think we're just going to do 5. Okay, Vervain wants coaches, Mess wants quarterbacks, Modine wants quarterback, Wild Waves wants drafts. Wow, a little bit of variety on this one. Okay. Players again, we got to do better than last time, Hank says. Okay. I'll tell you what, we've got 2 for quarterbacks, so we're going to do the quarterbacks one tonight. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to here's what I'm going to do. Oh, Mo says seasons. Mo's trying to mess with me here. Just okay. Yeah, y'all making me crazy here. Well, someone picks wow, wait, you pick drafts and now you want somebody to pick seasons? What you doing? Come on. All right, I'll tell you, we'll just do quarterbacks. We'll just make it a quick one night. It's almost 11:30, so I'm going to do we'll do quarterbacks on this one. Okay, so let's click. So the first thing I'm going to do is share the screen, and let's do that. Okay, and let's blow that up. Okay, so I've got to open up the chat. So what we're gonna do is what the heck? Let's try to do 10. Let's do 10 with the quarterbacks. Why the hell not? Maybe it'll work. All right, so we got 10 Jets quarterbacks on the list. We're gonna spin the wheel. So whichever one we land on, you type in the comments where he should rank on the top 10 list. So if you get like Joe Namath, it's a 1. If it's an absolutely horrific bust, that would be a 10. Okay, guys, it is time to spin the wheel. Let's go. Round and round and round we go. Where we stop, nobody knows. It is Boomer Esiason, number 1 pick. Okay, guys, so this is your job. Put it down there in the comments. If you were making a top 10 list of Jets compared to what we have on this wheel, where would Boomer Esiason rank? Modine, they're all 10. Shut up. Hank G would make him a number 1 quarterback. We're just looking at the Jet career. We're not going to look at the Bengals career, okay? So if we land on Brett Favre, keep that in mind too. Okay, so Boomer Esiason, where do we think he should wind up ranking? Vervain has him as a 6. Okay. Was it 1 to 5 or 1 to 10? Hey, G, we're gonna try to do a 10. Let's try to do all 10. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't, then in the future we could just do 5. All right, Jets Mess says 5, Modine says 5, while Wave says 5, Hank G says 4. Okay, I think that's a pretty good consensus. We're gonna make Boomer the 5. All right, so I'm going to write them down and I'll recap them as we go along. I'll let you know what numbers we have left to work with. Okay. Let's spin the wheel again. This is spin number 2. Oh, baby. Rick Meyer, you know what? Just for that, excuse me for a moment, but I just have to hit this. That sucks. Okay. Rick Meyer, do I even need to, I guess my question is this, 9 or 10? Because it doesn't get much lower than Rick Meyer. Vervain 9, Mess 9, Modine 9, Wild Wave 9. All right, guys, you got me. I'm convinced. Rick Meyer 9. Okay. And again, if we land on the same quarterback, we will spin the wheel again. Spin number 3, here we go. And it is, this should be an interesting one. We've got Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco. Some frustrating moments at times, but there was that very good win against Cleveland where he drove them down the field. Joe Flacco. So we have 5 Boomer, 9 Rick Meyer. Where do we want to put Joe Flacco? Vervain has him as a 6, Wild Wave as an 8, Hank G 8, Modine with us, I'm going 8. Okay, Jets Mess 6. So I've got 3 8s, I've got 2 6s. I'm almost wondering if we should split the difference and call it a 7. Okay, yeah, I think if we have it's like 2 6s, 3 8s. I feel like the fair thing to do is to make this a 7. Everyone okay? Hank G's okay with a 7? Okay. All right. I will make Joe Flacco a 7. Yeah. We go through these a lot faster than like Green Bean and guys that go through the mock drafts, doesn't it? We're going through this quite a bit faster. All right, spin number 4. Here we go. Lord Jesus, have mercy. Okay. So remember with Zach Wilson, 5 was Boomer, 7 Joe Flacco, 9 Rick Meyer. So we can make Zach a 6, an 8, a 10. I don't think we can rank him any higher than Boomer. But he has had a few moments. Modine says an 11. That sounds about right. Vervain says 8. Hank G says 8. All right. Personally, my thoughts, I got to rank him above Rick Meyer because how many games did Rick Meyer win with the Jets? So he's Zach won a few games. Jets Mess says 10. I'm seeing mostly 8s. Yeah, I think 8 is the spot to go with Zach Wilson. Okay. So we got 4 spins down. We've got Boomer at 5, Flacco at 7, Wilson at 8, Meyer at 10. So we got to get some good spins here, okay? Spin number 5. Here we go. And we are landing on Glenn Foley. Okay, Glenn Foley. Ooh, this is somebody I think I'd want to have around that Zach name. Hank G, there's still some scary names left. I know that's right. Okay, well, Glenn Foley, I don't think he can be above Boomer. I feel like with Foley, the only spots for him are the 6 or the 10. Yeah, so we have Boomer at 5, Flacco at 7, Zach at 8, Meyer at 9. All right, so really, Vervain, Flacco's already 7. He already took that spot. We can't use – see, that's the fun of this. You're trying to figure out where they belong on the list, but you're doing it one number at a time. That's the craziness of it. So 6 and 10 are the only real options because Foley's not going to be in the top 4. So he's got to be 6 or he's got to be 10. It's the only options. All right. So Hank G says 10. We've got a 10. I've got a 6. So right now 6 is in the slight lead. That's the thing. I can't say Glenn Foley was worse than Rick Meyer. I just think Rick Meyer was putrid. But was Glenn Foley better than Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson as Jets? Is that how we really feel? Yeah, look at me. Yeah, I've got 2 10s. I've got 2 6s. I can't do the 7 because Flacco's already a 7, guys. So I can't do that. Yeah, this is a tough call. This is a tough call. But we got to give him the 6 or we got to give him the 10. So I'll just put it this way. Yeah, Flacco, Wilson, Myers, 7, 8, 9. We're going to make Foley the 10. Wild Wave says 10. Okay. All right, I'll make Glenn Foley 10. I can't say I'm in love with it, but yeah, I think it's the best we could do. All right, guys. So that means we're halfway done. We've got spots 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6 left. So all these guys better be better than Joe Flacco as a Jet. It is possible. Oh God. I think we should have made Glenn Foley number 6 now. Okay, Quincy Carter. Can I just go ahead and make him the 6 between Boomer and Flacco? How many games did Quincy Carter even play as a Jet? It wasn't a whole lot. It wasn't a whole lot. Oh my gosh! So we got 5 through 10 already done. All of a sudden, I think Boomer's looking a little bit better than number 5, right? A little bit better. He's should have been top 4, I guess. All right, spin number 7. We have, there we go, Joe Willie Namath, the only quarterback to win a Super Bowl, ranked the number 1 character in the history of the NFL. Guys, where should I rank Joe Namath? Yep, could it be anything than number 1? I agree, guys. All right, Joe Namath, number 1. See, there you go. There you go. So now all we need are 3 quarterbacks in between Namath and Boomer. Let's spin that wheel. Spin number 8. Oh, no. No. Oh, no. Why? Why? It's Tim Boyle. I have to make him. Guys, all we have left are 2, 3, and 4. That's all we've got. I've got to make Boyle the number 4. Oh. Does anybody feel like they need a shot of whiskey or tequila right now, or a cold beer, whatever your drink of choice is? All right, number 4. Yep, it's unanimous. Dear God. All right, we've got the 2 and the 3 left. Come on, let's have a good finish here. Let's go. We've got Kellen Clemens. Pretty much a career backup. I mean, not on the level of some of these guys, and I mean that in a positive way. I guess Hey, gee, I need a shower after this. I feel dirty. Guys, serious question. Should I kept this to a top 5? We really haven't spun out. Yeah, we really haven't landed on good ones. Like, if we were to redo this list, I think Boomer would be our number 2. I mean, and who would be our number 3? Man, all right, let's do our last spin. Now, this is going to be our number 2 between Joe Namath and Kellen Clemens. Oh my God! And it's going to be Pat Ryan. You know what? The guy won a playoff game. Why not? Why not? I'm not even that upset with that. All right, so let's close the wheel. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Let's come back up. There we go. All right, so let me recap the order of this just lovely list we have from 10 to 1. We have number 10, Glenn Foley. Number 9, sorry about the comments, guys. Didn't mean to do that. I didn't know that was up the whole time. My bad. Number 10, Glenn Foley. Number 9, Rick Mirer. Number 8, Zach Wilson. Number 7, Joe Flacco. Number 6, Quincy Carter. Number 5, Boomer Esiason. Number 4, Tim Boyle. Number 3, Kellen Clemens. Number 2, Pat Ryan. Number 1, Joe Namath. Well, as far as how we did, I think there's only one thing that we could say. That's a loss, guys. That is a loss. That's way harder than the 100 players last week loss. But actually, I will ask you all this question. If you were to rank the top 3, Joe Namath would obviously be number 1, but who would be your 2 and 3 in this list? You know, we have Pat Ryan, Kellen Clemens, Boomer Esiason, Joe Flacco, Zach Wilson. You know, forget Boyle, forget Myra, Foley, Clemens. It could be Clemens, but I don't think it'd be Clemens. But who would be your 2 and 3? I mean, the Jets lost a ton with Boomer, but he went through 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years. You know, I feel like I feel like maybe Boomer and then Pat Ryan, maybe. Man, oh man, this is a tough. This was a rough list, guys. Yeah, there are a lot of good ones we missed out on. O'Brien, Chad, Vinny, Sanchez. You know, there were even Richard Todd. You know, we didn't get him either. So yeah, yeah. So Namath, Ryan Clemens, you guys are good with that? Yeah. I mean, I would put Boomer probably at 2 or 3 along with, maybe along with Pat Ryan, but that's kind of where I am. But yeah, Tim Boyle would definitely be at the bottom of the list. I don't think there's any doubt about it. All right, guys. Well, that was a lot of fun. We'll do a different wheel next week, I think. We'll do the likes and I'll decide on a number and then we'll go ahead and do it. So yeah, this was I had a great time doing this. I hope you guys did too. Yeah, I know. Hard to make a top 5 Jets quarterback list look good taking the whole field. It's rough, guys. I mean, I left out like the backups to the backups, like Mike Taliaferro and guys from like way back when, you know. But I just try to make sure we had quarterbacks on the list that we had feelings about, that actually meant something one way or another. That was just pretty much the whole idea. Okay. Hey, Modine, man, I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm really glad you enjoyed that. Cool. Wild Wave, peace to you as well. Guys, hope everybody has a great night. Be sure to check out the channel. We got more content coming. The confidence picks tomorrow. The Jets versus Texans preview, the bold predictions, the recap. I'm sure there'll be a lot of baseball coming up because there's a lot of baseball news coming out. But anyway, thank you again for watching. Go check out everybody else. Check out Green Bean, Nick, Jeremy, Buffalo Jets fan, Tigo. And we'll see you right back here with more content from you know where. The Wicker Chair. Have a good night, everybody.